Welcome to the first episode in this series on the return of Christ. Paul says in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, the day of the Lord comes as a thief in the night. He also adds that you need to understand that point perfectly. Paul is pointing out that whatever it is that does happen, happens very suddenly, without any warnings, without any indications, without anyone realizing that it was about to happen. When God says something in the Bible, obviously he means it. Sometimes, for emphasis, he repeats a point 3 or 4 times. In this particular case, he uses 15 scriptures in the New Testament to make this point. Those 15 scriptures were only up there for a brief moment, but you can always go back and pause the video and write them down for your own use later. We're going to go now and have a closer look at some of those scriptures. In Luke 21 verse 35, it says, "For as a snare shall it come on all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth." You're probably all aware of what a gin trap is. An animal maybe just walking quietly along until it puts its foot on the trigger mechanism, and from that moment on, the game's over. In Matthew 24 verse 37, "But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, life was normal, until the day Noah entered the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Watch therefore, for you know not what hour your Lord doth come." Obviously that refers to this surprise moment that Paul's referring to. The day of the Lord comes as a thief in the night, as a surprise. In Luke 17:26, it also mentions Noah, but it goes on to mention Lot. Likewise, also as it was in the days of Lot, they were eating, drinking, they bought, they sold, they planted, they builded, but the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. In Mark 13:35, it says, "Watch you therefore, for you know not when the master of the house comes." The point being made should be very, very clear. It's not that there'll be fire and brimstone when the Lord comes, but when the Lord comes, it will catch everyone by total surprise. When you take all those 15 verses together, you cannot come to any other conclusion. From these scriptures, we can also gather that what is meant by the day of the Lord, the coming of the Son of Man, the day the Lord comes, is referring to this very surprise moment that catches everyone off guard. The resurrection, on the other hand, and Paul is equally emphatic about this, he says, "I beseech you, brethren, don't be deceived. Do not misunderstand. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. But the resurrection will not occur until very obvious signs and indications are on the scene. The beast will be there. The mark of the beast will be there. There will have been persecution on the church. It will be an unmistakable event, and you will know it in advance, because Christ says, at that point in time, when these events have occurred, when you have seen them, then lift up your head, because your redemption draws nigh." Now we can draw some conclusions. For a start, there are going to be no temples. There are going to be no sacrifices in Jerusalem. The beast will not be on the scene, nor will the mark of the beast, nor will there be a one-world dictator or a one-world order. All of those would be clear indicators that the end time is about to begin. And that's the whole point. There will be no warning at all. But there's something else. If we know there is a definitive start, and of course we know what the end of the end time is, it's Christ returning with the saints to Jerusalem at the Mount of Olives, but with a definitive start and a known end point, we actually have the basis to form a timeline. As these episodes progress, we're going to be able to fill in the details on that timeline. We have discussed how the end time starts, but what is it? What is the first event that marks the transition from the normal stage of this world into the day of the Lord? That first event is the subject of our next episode.